Okay, thank you, Narinda, and thank you for inviting me to do this webinar. So my name is Vimla Chendriah. I'm actually the founder of Vedasante Health. Just a little bit about myself. My very first career was actually, I was actually trained as an RMN, which is a registered mental health nurse. I have worked both in the NHS and in the private sector as a practitioner, but then I moved on into the corporate world, holding various positions and working both in the UK and internationally. It was after the financial crisis in 2008-9, when there was a lot of stress with job losses and other personal events happening with house move and other personal things. I obviously was myself was fairly imbalanced, and I then retrained in Ayurveda, which is a natural holistic health system originated from India. So I actually retrained, and my passion has been really embedding natural wellness with mental health. So recently, which about 2 years ago, I also qualified as a mental health instructor from MHFA England. So really the company today is really delivering MHFA courses, mental health first aid courses to organizations, health coaching, and also delivering some workshops. So I was really inspired to do this webinar because when I'm actually running the courses, when I mentioned the word presenteeism, a lot of people didn't know what it is. And so it was just something which I think is very very on at the moment, because we are all actually working from home, and a lot of people are suffering. So so I'm going to start. We're going to look how to stop this, especially we are all working remotely. People are managing teams remotely as well. I think there's a bit of a delay with this.
Yes, there will be a bit of a delay, Vimla.
Okay.
Shall I move over to
Will you please, would you mind moving it? Because I'm not sure. Okay. So the first one, sorry, the slide before.
So this is the next slide.
The next one, sorry. So who is this webinar for? As I said, anybody, anyone working from home, any CEO, managers, team leaders, small to medium-sized businesses, and also entrepreneurs. Next slide. Doesn't look I'm able to move.
Have you tried with your cursor?
Yeah.
If you just maybe, I can do it for you, but just in case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to look at the introduction, why this topic is so important right now. We're going to look at the causes of presenteeism, and mostly e-presenteeism, and what are the impact on the individuals and organization at the moment, and what can we do to prevent this? And we're going to have a little bit of time as well for some question and answers. Okay, so at the end of this webinar, I'd like you to be able to learn how to spot the signs of e-presenteeism and learn how to prevent it affecting your team or even yourself. But most importantly as well, understand the connection of presenteeism and the impact on our health and well-being. So I think, oh gosh, sorry about that. We're getting a little bit of issue with the slide control. So what exactly is the presenteeism? It's a term which we use when somebody carries on working when they are unwell, and that could be physically and mentally, or maybe they are injured as well, or maybe burned out, but they still carry on working the normal week and the normal hours, or even more. And sometimes they're plugging into work, even being on holiday as well. And e-presenteeism, which is more what we are all experiencing right now. We are all working remotely, whereby employees stay online as much as possible. And very often we work beyond our contracted hours and find it very, very difficult to switch off. And I think this is becoming a really, really fast growing issue for remote workers. So I would say with around 66% of businesses now working remotely, so the importance of employers managing presenteeism is even more critical. So whilst we've got job flexibility, it has increased, but for many of us, so has work pressure. So it's becoming even harder to switch off. We've also, a lot of us are also homeschooling as well, on top of working online. So as a result, I think there's a high increased risk of presenteeism impacting not only on the employee's health, but also on the organization productivity. So what do we do with our commuting time? We have been spending a lot of time commuting. So what's happening? The commuting time is now being replaced by more work at home, or maybe switching off the laptop much earlier in the morning when we should be possibly enjoying our breakfast, and working very late when we should maybe be spending more time with our family, or maybe even sort of doing some hobbies away from work. So the latest statistics that we can see is we have about 4 in 5 HR professionals report that the move to home working has really encouraged a culture of e-presenteeism, and that's according to LinkedIn and the Mental Health Foundation. The research also shows that the average worker is performing at least 9 hours of overtime per week, as compared to 3 before the pandemic. So that's 3 times more, and very often without getting paid. And that is at the detriment of their mental health. We also found that 34% struggled to log off on time, and 29% say they are actually feeling under pressure to perform due to a lack of job security. And the other stats, National Statistics Survey, found that 1 in 5 persons have experienced depression since COVID-19, compared to 1 in 10 previously. I mean, these figures are really, really alarming. So, next slide.
So Vimla, can I just mention at the corner here, can you see where I'm hovering over with my mouse? It's a little bit here on the left hand side, right in the corner.
Yeah.
So if there's a back and forth, like a cursor, if you just click on that, that should be able to allow you to move from one slide to the other.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen that. Okay, so in terms of the mental health costs, we found that mental health issues have actually, that's including sort of depression, anxiety, has costing the global economy about $1 trillion per year, and that's in lost productivity. That's according to World Health Organization. We also had a Deloitte report, which was actually done before the pandemic, and that was in January 2020. We found that poor mental health costs UK employers up to 45 billion a year, 45 billion pounds a year. So looking at these figures, we found that for every £1 spent by employers on mental health intervention, they get £5 back, and that could be in reduced absence, presenteeism, and also staff turnover. Sorry. The other, this actually is a source from Mind Workplace Wellbeing Index, which was, again, 2019. I put that in because it just shows what was happening even before pandemic. So this problem has existed, it's been there for a long time, but I think it's going to get a lot worse post the pandemic or during what we're experiencing right now. So in red, it's actually people that actually go and mostly go to work even not feeling well, and in blue, when they actually take the time off. And that's actually a comparison with the public, private, and the charity sectors. So in terms of the public and private sector, it's not a huge difference, but it's still, you know, in terms of the private sector, we have a bit more people actually going to work. Sorry, I'm just trying to get used on this.
It's that cursor.
So what are the key drivers of presenteeism? A RAND Europe survey, as part of Britain's Healthiest Workplace competition, found that 50% of workers have one stress-related condition, and the reason that they actually carry on working and going to work even feeling unwell. One stress could be any form of stress, but they also found that 50% actually will go to work as a result of financial concerns. And out of that 50, 20% will have really serious financial concerns. So the figures is showing very, sorry, just okay. The other drivers that we can see will be the long-term issues, health issues. Again, that could be physical and mental health issues. There is also the suboptimal mental health, lack of sleep, and the job and role demands at work. Some other key drivers, which is really impacting on people carry on going to work. There is social isolation, and a lot of people live on their own. During the pandemic, they're feeling very lonely as well, because the social life has been reduced. They're not seeing their colleagues, they're not seeing their friends. So do we actually know that the impact of loneliness is equivalent to actually smoking 15 cigarettes per day? And so the impact is really, really huge. And sometimes people go to work because they don't understand, or there is very unclear boundaries between sort of the work and the home lives. Fear of job loss. Loyalty. People don't want to let themselves down. They don't want to let the company down. And there's also an aspect of being kind of self-important. They feel that if they don't go to work, nobody will be able, they will not be replaced, or their job won't be able, nobody can do their job. So there is all this aspect that really force people to carry on. There is employer expectations. The other aspect is the dual earner household. In fact, what does that mean is, like, currently, at the moment, we have so many parents, both parents are working. And in fact, I was the one doing it myself. I was guilty of that when my children were young, because what you do, even if you're not feeling well, you carry on because you want to save the sick leave, maybe when your children are not are poorly. And that's, a lot of parents do that. But obviously, sometimes we don't know the impact for it for a long time, and people carry on doing it. So in terms of the causes, I mean, at a personal level, we find that long-term illness, financial worry is a big reason why people do it. But there's also this mismatch or a conflict between our personal and work or professional goals. Sometimes we may feel stuck because we don't know where we're going in terms of the work, or maybe we feel we're not really being fulfilled, or it's not really fulfilling our soul, our energy level, and we are stuck and we don't know what to do, and as a result you carry on working. It could be that it's time to move on, or it could be it's time to change a career even. But sometimes people are not very clear, and they can get in a really rut and for a very, very long time, and that can really, really affect their health, both physical and psychological health. And sometimes maybe they feel there is a lack of recognition at work, no matter how hard they're working. So due to lack of recognition, they still carry on working in the hope that they will be recognized, that they will be rewarded. So that really, really leads to a fact of complete demotivation at work, but they'll still carry on pushing it. There is also relationships. Sometimes we feel people are having issues at home and they use work as an escape. So they may be physically present there, but they're not really performing. And sometimes if it hasn't been identified or not being explored, and that can carry on for a very long time, which will really increase their stress level and can lead to anxiety or even depression. And also I talk about relationship. It's not just about personal, it's also definitely professional relationships. It could be there is management issue. They haven't been able to speak to their manager. They are not being able to explore and express what's going on at work. So in terms of the organization level, what's going on there? So it could be that there is completely unrealistic expectation and time pressures, very tight deadlines, which is completely not realistic. There is a lot of companies which is not, there is unpaid sick leave after a certain limit of time that you've taken time off. We can also find that people may be experiencing some form of harassment or discrimination at work. Sometimes, again, they feel so much under pressure. So despite feeling, having this feeling, they're still pushing themselves and carry on going to work. The staff or at the organization, there is a complete absence or unclear policies and processes on presenteeism. And a lot of the time, it doesn't exist, actually. People, and that's something which a lot of HR department need to be looking at as well. People are not very clear about it. What is it? They don't even understand the word. So they would not, sometimes there is no policies. And of course, there is the issues of really heavy workloads as well. And of course, understaffing, lack of resources. People feel that they have to go to work because they are not being able to complete their project. They're going to let their other people down, their team down, their line manager down, and themselves. So when we're at work, we can actually see people because we are able to physically, visually see them. We can meet them at coffee place. We can go to lunch. We're able to observe. But what happens when we're actually all working away from home? What's going on behind the screen. Recently, I have been running my courses. I've been meeting CEOs of companies who come to the course and says to me, well, I've had sort of IT CEOs coming from very large companies where companies are really booming, doing very well. They used to have a lot of business travel. At the moment, they're not traveling. They're not able to see their staff. So they're telling me they don't know what to look for, and are their staff functioning? Are they doing okay? And yes, we can all see the Zoom screen, but sometimes we don't as well. So some of the signs that you can actually be looking in your staff is, could it be that they are refusing to put the camera on during meetings? Or maybe once is okay, but it's a continuous it's a continuous thing that they are not willing to put the camera on. They just want to listen. So that's kind of a sign to kind of start, observing. You may find that they're sending emails really early in the morning or very late at night, early morning, 6 o'clock when they should again be sleeping or having a nice breakfast. And very late at night, that is not quite right. Check on the timing. You may find somebody who has been, performing very well. There is a reduce in terms of productivity. They may also have reduction in attention to detail. It could also be that they're arriving late or leaving early for meetings, maybe for not completing a reason, or it could be a continuous thing that they're asking to leave early or late. What about lunch? Yes, we're all flexible. We can have our lunch, but we don't actually know if people are having lunch, and sort of find out whether it is something that they will be able to. Are they working extra hours? Are they missing out their lunch? Are they maybe even having lunch at their desk? It's something that, when you're promoting well-being strategies in your organization, these are the things that can be, explored. It's so important to have that break. They're working whilst being sick. They are looking quite tired and exhausted. They're possibly missing deadlines. That's becoming quite frequent. In terms of environment, what can you notice in the environment? Yes, I know we have all this glossy, background that we can put on Zoom, but if somebody is not feeling well, they won't even be bothered to change the environment. So sometimes, just watch out. Is it very messy? Is it very tidy? How untidy it is, how they're looking. And in fact, it is just a sign of a pure kind of sheer demotivation for the person. So these are the things that you can actually start looking, even being away from the office. So we talk about, I'm extremely passionate about prevention, not so much about, let the person carry on working until, the person's suffering from all sort of, physical or health or mental illness. So, it's all about prevention. It's all about what is it we can do now? How can we educate? What action can we take right now before the person gets ill, before it escalates? So there are 3 types of prevention. The primary of prevention is preventing problems before they actually emerge. But also looking at the second prevention is prevention for people which is already been exposed to certain risks or inequality. Maybe there are certain inequality that you're aware, but maybe it hasn't been taken account. So that's kind of secondary prevention. And tertiary prevention is for those maybe who is already known to have problems, but how do we support and manage those people in a therapeutic way at work? So that leads me to the to how actually on a personal level, what is it we can do? Yes, we can wait for the organization to set policies and processes, but as an individual, we all should have control for our own well-being as well, at home, away from home. This is something that I actually created myself, because if you look at this slide and if you look at the picture with a mobile phone and you have 1% left on your mobile, what emotion does it bring to you? For me, when I looked at that, I thought, of course, you're going to get anxious. You're rushing around. You're looking for a charger. You are so worried that you are going to end up the conversation. You will not be able to check your phone. So what we feel is this is how our body should be. So when we actually, towards the end, we're feeling exhausted, we're feeling tired, we're feeling we haven't had any sleep, we need to charge ourselves. So I use the same energy in terms of how can we use this to charge our mind, our body, and even our soul as well. So I created Charge because I think it's a blend of self-development, and also I took the concept, a lot of the psychology of Ayurveda into it as well. So I talk about communication. Communication here, a lot of the communication started by us talking to ourselves, self-talk. So a lot of the time we self-talk, we have negative thoughts, which become behavior and thinking process. So, you know, there are times we make assumption on a lot of things. We think we're going to lose our job, or we are not able to meet deadlines. But have we checked with our boss whether, you know, there will be support or there are some help available? Could it be that, you know, maybe your project is coming to an end, but do you know there are possible new projects coming up? So there's a lot of kind of negative self-talk that we carry on doing, and a lot of the time it can create really negative sort of behavior, and we can put ourselves in a really challenging situations as well. So clarifying those communication is really key, and communication that could be both at work and at home as well. It could be that you are scared of losing your job, you are worried severely about finance, but maybe you haven't even spoken to your partner or to your spouse about it, and you are just holding on to this and due to fear. So it could be that you can come up with solutions by just expressing and talking, and you know, that is key. And until you clarify it within yourself, you will not be able to express this to your boss. I find sometimes I use a journal. You could use a journal that could be, you could use 10 minutes in the morning, or you could use it at night before you go to bed. By actually expressing it yourself on paper, it will really give you a lot of confidence to use the same communication tools and express it verbally to the person concerned. And that can be both at home and work. Health is a huge topic here, so we won't have time to go over details, but health will be everything for me. I use a holistic approach, so therefore it will be both physical, psychological, emotional, and also spiritual health, which in a situation where we're facing, spiritual health can be a really savior for a lot of people. So bear this in mind as well. What is A? A is activities. We are actually all the time on using iPhone, computer, headphone. So I tend to pick activities which is actually away from the computer. So what are the things you can do away from PCs and technology, and away from Bluetooth, you know, walking, painting, art, you know, music. So try to embed something maybe that you have really enjoyed in the past. Maybe you haven't had a chance to do it. Maybe this is a time to actually start putting that in your schedule once a week even, and that could really start bringing balance to yourself. Relationships, again, what's happening in relationships at home, it's really challenging, and I do feel for parents who are actually homeschooling, managing a relationship with your children, with your husband, with your partner, with everybody else on top of working from home is absolutely really challenging. So we all know that, so be mindful of how you're managing it. And again, it's very much linked to the communication. So the better your communication will be, the better your relationship will you know, you will have a much better relationships at home and at work. And do express it if you've got issues at work. Yeah, so do that. In terms of goals, I put in here goals. I talk here about financial goals, personal goals, and professional goals. So we all have different goals, and sometimes it leads to stress because we are not clear for ourselves. So that, I think, could be a very important thing to start writing as well. Writing those goals and expressing it is really important. I talk about E in terms of energy level. So what does it exactly mean? I think in terms of energy, we are all born and born with different mind and body constitution. So having a different mindset and body type really affect our level of energy. What I mean by that is, like, we all, each of us, have got a certain time of the day when we perform the best. Certain people will perform the best in the morning. Some people could be mid-morning, and some people could be maybe late afternoon. So being mindful and understanding that and taking note for yourself can be really, really effective, because that will really improve your time management. So if you've got a very important task to do, rather than hanging and dragging it on, and be present at work just for the sake of being present and not really performing, you could really start putting those energy to best use and addressing the most important task for the day. So it's something that you can take note yourself and write it down, and then you will be able to observe yourself. So it's a really very, I think it's a really, really important aspect of managing your own sort of well-being as well. So in terms of organizations, what can they do? So a lot of the time, maybe organizations have not even recognized the issue. So I think for me, recognizing that this is an issue for the staff is key. And then, of course, you have to work on your company culture and what's going on, maybe reviewing that company culture. You know, what's happening during, you know, post-pandemic, what you're going to do about it. Also recognizing that when presenteeism is appropriate, it's not all negative, because sometimes presenteeism can be therapeutic as well. What if somebody has suffered some health issue, but coming to work is really, really therapeutic for that person, is really supporting and helping that person to get back on his, on her feet. It may be performance may not be to the best, but you're really helping somebody to get back to life and really getting on with work. And I refer here to the Equality Act 2010, which protects people with disabilities from unfair treatment. And this absolutely includes people with a mental health issue as well. And obviously, if you haven't got any policy, making sure that there is a clear developed workplace policy. I'd definitely ban any long hours right now. People don't need long hours. We're working enough. There is enough stress. There is enough pressure. We don't need any extra hours. People need to rest. Definitely promote, if you haven't got it already, promote a well-being strategies at work. Encourage staff to rest, you know, that's so key. And if they're ill, making sure that they recuperate from it and they do not rush back to work. It's not going to help the individual, it's not going to help the company at all on a long term, as the figures has proven in the stats which I've showed you earlier of this presentation. So if you haven't also got an absence or attendance policies, make sure you review it, and clarifying between absenteeism and presenteeism, and educate the staff and finding out, you know, so that they're aware of what they're doing as well. Recognize that actually there are times when there will be fluctuating job demands and peak periods, and understand, you know, when there will be more demand, and expressing that as well to the staff is key. Other things that we can do, obviously, making sure that there's offered paid sick leave. Definitely some strategies to boost morale, you know, whether you have a fun, you know, meeting online, chill out time, it's really important. And I believe to address this, the role of the line managers and team leaders is absolutely crucial, because if they themselves are not able to understand that, they will not be able to pass on to their team. In fact, I delivered a course for a whole team of NHS staff last couple of weeks, and a team manager was actually organizing the whole course. But in fact, the best thing that she's taken from the course was she's realized that it was her that needed it more. So it was just a winning, it was a great achievement because she herself didn't realize how badly she needed to look after her own health and well-being. So that was a really, really rewarding. So the fact that she's gone through it, she understood what she was going on. So it's very, very important that team leaders, line managers are understanding the concept. So having urgent preventative measures in place to actually to impact the growing problem. And of course, having critical changes, some immediate workplace changes to support any preventative measures. And that's which is going to impact both on the organization design, the key performance indicators, and of course, the culture of the organization moving forward. So I think we can all say we've spot the signs. We can say, okay, great, we're going to go out there and start embedding well-being strategies. But some of the key things we need to consider as well is like it takes a lot of strength for somebody at work to express that they're actually facing problems, and that could be both, at home or emotional, mental health, or some physical issues as well. You don't know. So understanding that when somebody expresses they need strength, and they need to trust somebody at work and to open up and reach out. And if there isn't that, they're not going to express it. They're going to carry on working. Expressing something personal could also make the person lose confidence, and maybe they feel they feel it as a failure because they haven't been able to deal with their own emotional well-being, emotional issues. And in fact, that I relate this because I think that could be very linked with a lot of men as well, who are very high performance. I'm not saying women both, but it can be linked to high performance, who feel they always have to perform to the very best, to the highest level, and therefore they will feel that they don't want to lose their confidence at admitting that they are suffering, or they will feel a failure. So I talk about men in here because I think there was an Oxford study on the past recession in 2008, 2010. We found that there were over 10,000 suicides across Europe and North America. And so that was 4 times more in men. And I believe what we're seeing now will be a huge impact. So we have to be very mindful of people at work, especially when they are not supported or they are not able to express what's going on. It could also be they feel that very uncomfortable because there could be culture issues. And I talk about VME because I'm also doing some work with Mental Health First in England on looking at systemic racism and also the impact on mental health. And we know that the group of BME already face some stigma and discrimination, but on top of that, having a mental health issue can really, really be challenging for this group of people. So kind of when you actually training people to become mental health first aid in your organization, just think about diversity, think about different people where everybody are able to relate to each other. And that can really opening up the conversation, the communication, and the trust as well. So again, for CEOs, for anybody there who is managing staff, is like, okay, rather than rushing around and say, okay, let's start embedding this well-being strategy, let's start training people, I have some key questions that I'd like to ask. Number one is, do you personally yourself understand what mental health is? So what should be your role in supporting people with mental health issues at work? And could it be that you are yourself breeding these mental health issues in your organization? What I mean by that, are you the role model? Are you actually sending email very late at night? Are you sending email really early in the morning? Are you encouraging well-being? Maybe, you are, even if you're unwell, you're still going to work. So is that the role model? What are your current and historic statistics on presenteeism, or do you have any? And are you prepared for a very long-term plan of well-being, or are you just looking for a quick fix? So these are the questions to be asked. So of course we have an option, do nothing, but the impact on health and well-being will be huge. And we already know the high impact on and resources costs, which we've seen before, but there will be huge increase of stress and mental ill health. Increased fatigues, low morals, and impair cognitive and physical function. Potential increase, of course, in recovery time, because the longer you leave it, the more cost implication there will be, and the longer the person will take to recover. So that's what I talk about prevention. So if you notice, if you see something, please be proactive, take action, and support the person at work. You will find people coming back. The longer they come to work not feeling unwell, they will suffer. Their sleep will suffer really, really badly. So people who like a book on sleep, I really recommend Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, and try to read this book. It really, really helps you to understand the power of sleep, of good sleep. And you will find that people will also use addictive substances. That could be alcohol, could be drugs, and they will engage in other activities, and they could be gambling, other form of activities, just to get through that period. But we can start preventing that if we spot those signs early and support people. You may notice some cognitive and behavioral changes for certain people at work. And of course, all these will have massive impact on their eating habits and nutritional habits, and that leads to very poor diet on a regular basis. Very, very important is the virtual fatigue. Basically, what's happening, we overstimulating, not just like looking at one screen. We're having continuous Zoom meetings with 15, 20 faces continuously for day, for meetings. And on top of that, people are homeschooling, and that can create really, really a fatigue, and people don't understand where it's coming from. So having that break and promoting those well-being strategies is really, really important. So in summary, we have looked at so we have kind of learned what sort of sign do we need to look for, and how to look for this, how to spot the signs, whether remotely or physically. Sorry, my slide is not moving again for some reason. Sorry about that. We've also learned how to take control on a personal level. We have explored some of the solutions. Maybe some of them you already have, but maybe you could embed in your organization. So explore solution how to prevent presenteeism. We've also understood the connection of presenteeism and long-term impact on our health and well-being, and especially if we don't act. And that could be both on an individual level and on an organizational level. So that kind of lead me to almost the end of the webinar. So I would say thank you very much for listening. But before I take any questions, I'd like to mention about my next course, which is coming up on the 24th and the 25th of February. It's a mental health first aid 2 days course. It's a course which is a combination of individual learning, instructor-led videos, and also some online learning. So it's a really interactive and full of discussion, and it's a lot of information, a lot of resources to be provided during the course. It's had excellent feedback so far. I also have on the 2nd of March, I have a half-day awareness, and that's only about 4 hours, but it gives you a really, really good preview of what to look for and give you a flavor of various conditions that you may be able to use as more of a self tool to look after your own health and well-being. It's not all about helping others, because before you help others, you've got to help yourself first. So I do intend to run some webinars depending on demand, but topics that people would like to cover. I think the next one I'd like to run would be 17th of March on burned out, which I think is a key issue again at the moment from a lot of people that I talk to. I think the best way to connect with me would be on LinkedIn. You can connect with me directly, or you can visit the website vedasantehealth.com, or you can email me as well. So thank you very much for listening. So I'll take any question. Isn't it, Narinda?
Thank you very much, Vimla, for delivering today's webinar on how to stop presenteeism affecting your remote team. It's a hot topic that you've touched on, Vimla, which is on the rise, and it's been very, very interesting, very engaging and educational, so thank you very much for that. As you can see, Vimla has shared her contact details there. Do link with her on LinkedIn. Visit her website to find out what she's offering, the support she's offering, the courses she's doing, workshops, and so on. So great website, please do visit that. And also there's an email there. So if you'd like to send Vimla an email with any questions you may have to find out about upcoming courses, or maybe some topics you can suggest around mental health, then please do email those to Vimla. So that's great. Thank you very much. Okay, questions. Anybody got any questions before I move over to the next slide, which is a chamber slide? Okay, Vimla, question for you. Do you feel presenteeism is exaggerated by the data and analytics culture of recording everything, where the key is to measure output performance? Can you see that question?
Yes. I think, yeah, we sometimes, we're not exaggerating, but I think sometimes there are no clear policy, no clear guidelines. So I think recognizing the problem is the key. The key to measure output performance, I think that would be up to each organization in terms of the HR. But there should be also, I think there is a guideline which I could send people afterwards by World Health Organization of how to measure, e-presenteeism and presenteeism at work as well.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Any more questions? Okay, Vimla, I have a question for you. So yeah. How are you finding how workplace presenteeism is being measured? Do you feel that organizations are doing that? Are they measuring that with their employees?
I think it varies. I think presenteeism is not a new thing. It's been there for a long time. I don't think not a lot of companies are doing it, but I think it's now becoming more of an issue because people are working from home. So again, it's something I can't answer in terms of each company. I think as a responsible employee, you should check with your HR director or HR personnel to find out either is there a policy, is there a process in place, and you should be familiar with it as well. So I think that's what I'll say. It's not a new topic, it's there, but it's definitely exaggerated. It's becoming more prominent now with e-presenteeism, and everybody should be aware of it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, Michelle Kelly has said, stats are necessary and lead to some helpful intervention and preventative measures like mental health first training, training being identified as needed by organisations.
Sorry, can you read that? I didn't get that. Sorry.
I think it's just a comment. So stats are necessary and lead to some helpful intervention, preventative measures like mental health first training being identified as needed by organisations.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's the key to start rolling this down and making them aware, and definitely having, if you haven't got anybody trained in mental health first aid, then that definitely should be your first action right now, because somebody could be working remotely but have that support. So they can still talk to somebody online by the phone, and that can be a massive, massive help to anybody working remotely. at the moment. So if you haven't got anybody, please just take action in making sure that you've got people trained in your organization.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Please, delegates, keep posting your questions in the chat box and Vimla will answer those for you. I'm going to quickly just move over to a chamber slide. So this is the chamber membership model. It tells you about the different tiers that we offer. If you're a member, you will be aware of these tiers and you will be in one of those tiers. And if you're not a member and you'd like to learn more about the membership and what we offer, then please do contact us and we will be able to go through the different tiers with you and the benefits and services we provide. Here are my contact details, and once again, here are Vimla's contact details. So please do maybe pick up the phone to her with any questions you may have, send her an email, and do connect with her on social media. I believe it's LinkedIn she's shared on her previous slide. So we'll just quickly go back to those if you need that information. Some great courses here, some great upcoming courses, so please do visit those. They will also be on social media, with the chamber will be tagged into those and we'll be resharing them, and also in our weekly mailer, which goes out on a Wednesday under the member event section, so they will be advertised in there. Vimla, is there anything else you would like to touch on today?
No, that's fine.
Okay, perfect.
Delivering this. And,
excellent.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much again, Vimla, for today's course. And I think we don't have any more questions. It's looking all good. So thank you very much. Take care. Bye, everybody.
Okay, bye. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.